Hello, my name is Keisha Gregory, and my focus is on the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. Before I get into the actual story of the Divine Comedy, I want to just give you a quick timeline of Dante, the author. Dante was born in late May, some say even early June, 1265 in Florence, Italy. He had a childhood friend growing up that he was madly in love with. Her name was Beatrice. They ended up not even being together, but he does write her in two of his works are actually dedicated. Well, one is dedicated to her, and she's just a character in the Divine Comedy. She dies in 1290. He writes first work, Vita Nuova, in 1292, which is a list of love poems dedicated to Beatrice. Um, in 1302, he was banished from Florence for siding with the Guelphs, and he was caught and charged. So they ultimately banished him from Florence because he sided with what was known as the enemy, which was the Guelphs. In 1304, he writes his second piece, Del Vulgari Eloquentia. In 1314 is when he actually starts writing the Divine Comedy, and he publishes the first part, which is the Inferno. In 1315, he moves to Verona and begins to work on the second part, which is Purgatorio, and the last part, Paradiso. In 1319, he moves to Ravenna, and in 1321, he actually publishes the last two parts of the Divine Comedy. And finally, in 1321, he dies. So now we actually get to talk about the Divine Comedy itself. This was the last, well, its completion was the last piece that Dante actually wrote before he died in 1321. This was, well, this is a considered uh, classic work in Italian literature, as well as one of the greatest works in world literature. It talks about pretty much the character Dante's road to redemption or salvation. It starts Easter Sunday, and Dante's lost in the woods of darkness and confusion, and he tries to pretty much go into the light, and the light represents God and, rebirth. And he's stopped, and he has to go through hell and pretty much travel through hell to get to God the other way around. So, hell is, it has 9 levels, and the entire story is just pretty much the travels of Dante through his road to redemption. And it just describes hell in so much detail, with the types of sin, the sinners, and just the different plights that this character goes through. Um, it has that he travels through hell, purgatory, and paradise, and it represents pretty much the soul's you know journey towards God. So the Inferno is the specific work that we did in class, and it is the actual travels that he did through hell. Um, when he was in the forest of confusion and darkness, he was turned around by 3 beasts, which pretty much prevented him from going straight up the mountain into the light to salvation or to God. So once the beast turned him around, he had to go through hell. He met up with someone that he admired in real life named Virgil, and Virgil was his guide through hell. And hell had 9 different levels, so he began his descent through each level. So the first level or circle was called limbo. In limbo, there were people that were born before Christ, or people that didn't believe in Christ. They lived in a castle with 7 gates, which symbolizes 7 virtues. Um, in this part of hell, the character Dante sees a lot of classical prominent people such as Homer, Socrates, Aristotle, and Julius Caesar, who resided here. The second circle of hell was lust. The people in this level are being blown around violently by strong winds, and they're unable to rest. The strong winds symbolize desire for fleshly pleasures, pretty much. And Dante sees people in this circle, including Helen of Troy and Cleopatra, and other people who were committing adultery during their lives. Okay, the third circle is for the gluttonous people. The people in this circle are overlooked by a monster named Cerebrus, who looked kind of like a big worm type thing. The people here are punished to live in this slush type stuff that's produced by a never ending icy rain. The slush, the never ending slush, represents the people who overindulged in too much food, too much alcohol, or any other type of pleasures. Um, and they're also unable to see other people lying near them, and that represents the selfishness and coldness of these people. They just want to have everything for themselves. For the sake of time, I skipped over a couple of slides, but I left a brief description of the other levels of hell and a little bit about what they were about. The last circle of hell, the ninth circle, is divided into four sections according to the seriousness of their sin. All of these people here are frozen in a icy lake. Their level of sin depends or determines how frozen they are in this lake. People who committed to more severe sins are deeper within ice. Um, the center of the ring of the ice is Satan. He's waist deep in ice, and he has three heads in his mouth: Brutus, Cassius, and Judas, the apostle who betrayed Jesus with a kiss. So these are the top dogs of the sinners according to Dante. Okay, so now that you saw the different layers of hell and what it entails, I want to just kind of give my interpretation on the Inferno. I feel like the Inferno is a timeless classic, and it was way ahead of its time. The main lesson that still applies to people today are just pretty much, salvation and redemption. People are still struggling with demons and all types of other, issues in their life. Um, and people get lost along the way, which, just like Dante did in the beginning in the darkness. And, as long as you're alive, as long as you're on earth, you can still turn things around, which is represented by Dante's character. He was still alive. He was able to go down into hell, face his sins head on, kind of see where he went wrong, find himself, make his way through that, and get to the salvation and reach God. So I think that it just represents, for people even today, that, even if you're lost, if you're doing wrong, you're doing bad things, that you can always, turn around, turn your life around. And it also exposes, the sinners for who they are. Like, sin is real, and you will be punished according to such. I'm kind of on the fence about religion right now. But I do believe that when you do good, good will come back to you, and if you do bad, that bad things will happen. So the kind of eye for an eye thing, so to speak, I guess I'm kind of in agreement with that. So the concept of the different layers of hell, I believe in that to a certain degree. If you do certain things, that will be, maybe not always, how you're punished. Maybe not to the extent as Dante portrayed it in the Inferno, but to a degree, I still do agree with it. But I think the lesson in the story is that you have to see evil and face it to appreciate the salvation, because you will take it for granted and you'll end up back, where you started, which would be, the darkness and confusion that Dante was at in the beginning of the story. Um, he used real life characters during his time, or real life public figures or popular figures that were in Florence and in Italy at the time, and used their behaviors, good or bad, and placed them in different parts of hell to illustrate, that pretty much no one is safe. Like all men are on a level playing field. If you sin, you're gonna get punished, no matter who you are, no matter how great you are, and how much regard, even he himself, the author, had for some of these characters, because there were some of the people in the play, or the work, that he had high regard for, but they were still in hell because of their behaviors. So I think that that was a fair interpretation for Dante as an author. So to conclude, I thought I would add something fun at the end, or maybe a little funny. Um, I used a combination of my personal opinion and a couple of things that I saw on the internet. So I wanted to just put some of the celebrities or well-known people from various eras. Some have already passed away, but people who would be in the 9 layers of modern hell, according to Dante. So according to Dante, I don't think anybody would be in limbo, because technically that was anybody born before Christ. So since we were all born afterwards, that would kind of be blank. Um, and as you can see, we have, people like Kim Kardashian, Mariah Carey, Tom Cruise, and even Donald Trump. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and have a great evening.